Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 60. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Erdoff. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Beatty Matt. Sean's at Sean Beatty. Kev's at Kev's Believe the First Name Believes Me in a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Tell us what you think in the comments below of anything we talk about. Let's start off with the Seattle Sounders. They are currently in Los Angeles taking on LAFC. It's not going well, unfortunately, for the Sounders. It's the 89th minute. They are down 3-0. They are coming off a loss on Saturday, 2-1 to Kansas City, and they had a tie on Wednesday against Colorado, 1-1. So Kevin, our resident soccer guru slash luck maker,
Why have you forsaken us?
why have you forsaken us, Kevin? I mean, are you just setting up for a playoff run to like maybe bring them more down to earth and then build them up when they get to the playoffs? Like what's going on here?
A little bit of both. Yeah. We were in kind of contract negotiations for future blessings this week, and they did not meet where I set the bar. They wanted to kind of lowball me a little bit. So I said, well, you're going to find out this week what happens when you lowball me. And they're kind of finding out right now. So Sounders, talk to me after this game and we'll see what we can do. Let's raise that bar a little bit and give me the little, and we'll kind of go from there.
There you go.
I can't believe you're asking for bribes on a podcast from the Sounders.
Right?
Like, how dare you?
Sean, Christian Roldan had the only goal against Colorado in the tie game. And then in the game against, it was Christian Roldan once again against Kansas City, and no goals so far right now. Sean, are you a little nervous about the Sounders as they wind down the regular season here?
No, not particularly. I mean, again, once you're in this certain position, you just kind of want to be healthy. They've got a spot clinched up. Don't do nothing that's crazy. I will say, and I want to go on record, the no red card in the Kansas City game where the goalie literally tackled. That has to be a red card. I don't know how it was only a yellow. That was absolutely a joke and needs to be addressed because that happens during the playoffs. Like something's gonna burn. Like you can't allow that to go. I don't know whoever didn't see that, but yeah, go back and look at it. It was terrible.
Well, I'm going to bring it up right here, actually, just because that is a very good point. And I accidentally got the goal wrong in that game. It was actually Nicholas Benizet, I believe is how you say it. I hope I said it right. Sorry, Nicholas, if I said it wrong. But Sean, I'm going to show that play right now because I saw this on Twitter, and I'm not really sure how that's possible because
it was horrible.
If you see the play, you are like, excuse me, what just happened here? So
that was a Bobby Wagner tackle.
I mean, it basically was a Bobby Wagner tackle. Here we go. Let me share my screen here so Kevin can see exactly what happened here.
Ooh. Oh, right. God.
So, I mean, like Christian Roldan is trying to leave, and he is basically
like a little STO right
and
there.
I like how the goalie gets up and is like, what?
Yeah,
Didn't do anything.
The ball's in play. Like he's next to the ball. And that's not a penalty kick. I don't know.
Rock bottom. Oh, Dwayne Johnson would be proud.
I don't know how, if that's not a penalty kick. I don't know.
Wait, that did not get flagged.
No, they got a yellow.
What in the ass of Zeus? Sorry for my language, but
yes. That didn't get a red card and a penalty kick, and it would have been 2-2. They would have tied if that is just called a red card.
That's not allowed in. Not even freaking like football. Like nothing.
You can't. Yeah, technically you're right. You can't do that to a quarterback in the NFL. That happened in the MLS game.
So Sounders they'll bounce back. They were on ESPN tonight. They have 2 games left in the regular season. They are hosting LA Galaxy on Monday, and then they are wrapping up the regular season on Saturday in Vancouver before the playoffs get underway. Currently, Sounders are still sitting in that number 1 spot. So get out there and cheer on the Sounders. They are going to be on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, please queue up the Sounders to watch them in their final 2 games before the playoffs start. But let's move on to some Seattle Kraken news. So let's talk about their recent schedule. They just wrapped up a 5-1 victory against the Montreal Canadiens. Before that, though, it was tough skating for the Kraken. They had a 4-game losing streak before that. Technically, one of those was an overtime loss, so they did have a point, but they lost to Philly 6-1 while we were on the show talked about it last time. 4-2 to New Jersey. We were on the show last time. And then Vancouver, the home opener, they lost 4-2. I was there. We'll talk about there in a moment. But let's talk a little bit about the Kraken so far. So, Kevin, have you seen any Kraken hockey recently?
I was watching tonight's game a little bit, and from what I could see, everything was looking pretty good. It wasn't looking like what it was, I watched the highlights of the highlights on YouTube of the other games, but all in all, since I'm not really a hockey expert, I'm just gonna say it's kind of what I expected. There's just rough roads, and then you're gonna beat a poopy team every now and then, kind of like what they did tonight. And yeah, go Kraken.
Sean, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, after we talked about it, they lost to Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Vancouver, all only scoring at most 2 goals. Again, the goals are probably going to be an issue for this team. However, playing Montreal is just in a world, they're lost. So them beating Montreal is good. You're beating the bad teams. You're beating, the equivalents of the Detroit Lions, which, I mean, you're supposed to. So that's a good sign. Grubauer's playing back to good again. I think a lot of people are getting on Grubauer, and rightfully so. He hasn't played great, but I will say your defense is leaving you out to dry a lot, and you need to help him out. And if you're a defensive team, you need to be better than that. So, and I think they were today from what I saw. I was watching the Stars game, unfortunately, during at least 2/3 of the Kraken game. So, but from what I heard and what I was able to watch after, they played pretty well. So, they do play Minnesota, New York, and Edmonton by the time we'll next do this. I just want to tell you guys, enjoy it. I know it's gonna be incredibly frustrating, but enjoy watching Connor McDavid play hockey, because it's really a treat to watch. So it's gonna suck. It's like playing against freaking Mike Trout, but man, he's fun. He is really fun at hockey. So good things. It's fine. Don't panic. The Pacific still sucks. All these other teams are coming back down to earth. Anaheim and the Sharks are coming back down. You'll be fine. Vegas is still nicked up a little bit. They are getting healthier and winning some games, so you need to watch out for that. But as long as you just keep winning your games, you do play Buffalo and Arizona coming up soon. Just fine. Stay the course. Nothing's over yet.
All right. Well, I'll talk about my experience at the Kraken home opener. So I'm gonna share my screen here really quick. So if anyone is at a game and is watching this show and wants to come say hi, this is where I'm at. I'm in section 7, row W, seats 12 and 13. Really not a bad view in the rink. So if you're in the section 5 to 10 area, that's pretty close. So yeah, this is the view from my seats. So pretty solid view. I've got the defensive end and the first and third periods, and it's really nice because actually you can see all the offensive zone in the first and third periods. It's nice to have them coming at you in the second period, but it's a little bit better to see everything far away. Went with a friend, Sheridan. My advice, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on food or drink, I would do that beforehand, because the prices at Climate Pledge Arena are, I mean, I've been to Safeco Field, or T-Mobile Park this year. They are more expensive than T-Mobile Park. I got there and I was like, Sheridan, you bought some drinks before we got here. I'll get you a tall boy 20 ounce, the Seattle Kraken official beer. It was $40 for 2 of them. Now they are 20 ounces, so you do get a little bit more for your money, but wow. I mean, that was I was like, this is my only beer for the day, for the game. So that's that. They do have some good food options, but they are once again a little bit pricey. You're going to pay anywhere from $10 to $20 for good food. I will say that it is good food. I had Sheridan had a meatball sub, which was looked delicious, and then I kind of had like some cheesy bed pizza, which was really good. So the food there is good, but you are going to pay a lot to get some food there. In terms of the facility, I mean, if it isn't Climate Pledge Arena, you wouldn't even notice. It's like totally eco-friendly and stuff like that. Like the facility is absolutely beautiful. Be sure to get the Clear app before you go to a game because they do check for vaccination status. So just be aware of that. But I mean, look at this view. I mean, it's pretty great. The building was packed. They did a nice intro. Gary Bettman got booed as he should before the game. Pre-game intros were pretty cool. And Anna Wilson from the band Heart sang the national anthem, so that was pretty cool. And pretty much the who's who of Seattle was there. Sue Bird got the crowd pumped up before the game. Macklemore pumped up the crowd before the second period. A bunch of Seahawks were there. DK Metcalf and Bobby Wagner pumped up the crowd before the third period. They turned the camera to Russ and Ciara in the second level in the third period. He got like a standing ovation. And then Gary Payton and Sean Kemp were bouncing around the building. A bunch of people I know got photos with them. So pretty much all of the Seattle sports legends were there. So that was pretty cool to see. In terms of the game, they got the first goal in Climate Pledge Arena history. Vince Dunn on a nice little wrist shot at the end of the first period. Vancouver tied it in the second, and then Giordano scored in the third for the 2-1 lead. But power play goal was able to give the tie, and then just a bad turnover and a breakaway for Vancouver got the go-ahead goal, and then they sealed it with an empty netter. So overall, I mean, absolutely great experience. My first NHL game. Bought myself a nice little jersey here. So it's going to cost you, but these are eco-friendly jerseys and they're going to last you a long time. I paid $220 for this, but it is quite worth it because it's going to last you quite a long time. So overall, I mean, if you're going to be able to make it out to an NHL game, Seattle's a great place to do it. And Lauren and I will be there for the New York Ranger game on Sunday. So expect another live report. Oh, I see her over there shaking her head and dancing. So that's sweet.
Did you get a player on the back?
I did not get a player on the back. So it was about towards the end of the second period. I had to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom with about 5 minutes left, got out with about 3 minutes left. There was no one in the team store next to the bathroom. So I was like, here's my opportunity to get a jersey. I'm doing it. And the team store, it wasn't the full team store. It was like a small team store on the side. And they had nameless jerseys. And so I wanted to make sure I got a jersey, and make sure you get an actual jersey, folks. They do have like jersey shirts, and Sean can probably tell you a little more about that because they're not actual jerseys. Jerseys are probably going to be a little bit bigger on you. That's what they're supposed to be because technically they're supposed to fit pads. Also, they are a little bit easier to wear because then you can put more clothes underneath them because you're in a cold building with ice.
Put a sweatshirt underneath your jersey. That's easy.
Absolutely. So generally you're going to want them to run a little bit big. So if it's a little bit big on you, that's how it's supposed to fit because generally you're supposed to wear pads underneath. So they're going to run you a good amount of money, but these are very well made jerseys and they're going to last you quite a long time. So highly recommend you get one. If I were to get a jersey, I would have gone Geeky, your boy, Kevin. Either that or Tanev. And Sean really is upset with me that I wouldn't get a Grubauer jersey. I'm sorry, Sean. I don't do goalie cuts. You know that. All right.
It's a shame. It's a shame. And you call them jerseys the entire time. They're sweaters, but I'll let it slide.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sweaters, jerseys.
No, you can call them jerseys. You can call them.
My goodness. All right. Well, as Sean mentioned, the Kraken have a pretty good slate coming up. They've got Minnesota on Thursday, the New York Rangers on Sunday. So our friend Scotty, shout out. You're going down. And at Edmonton on Monday. So Sean mentioned Connor McDavid. Also, do not sleep on Leon Draisaitl, one of the best players in the NHL as well. So that'll be a tough game for the Kraken, but we'll see how they do in this 3-game stretch. Kevin, are you planning on going to a game at all at this point?
Like I said, if I did, it'd probably be more in the springtime. But is Scotty going to wear a Rangers jersey, or is he actually going to get Kraken?
I'm wearing a Sharks jersey when I go for San Jose, so you'll see me in the Sharks jersey.
And you're going to get beat up.
You're not going to get beat up, but you're going to get comments because anybody wearing a Vancouver Canucks jersey when they scored stood up and everyone's like, sit down.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, Seattle fans are not, like Philly fans, so you'll be fine, but, you'll be all right.
Scotty wore, to be fair, our buddy Scotty, we went to a Rangers Sharks game, and so he wore his Ranger jersey in the middle of, California during, there's some rowdy fans in California, so he did that. Sharks scored 7 goals in that game. He heard it all game long.
Yeah. I am excited to see the Rangers because they are playing pretty well right now. Edmonton's 5-0, so that's
They look terrifying. They look absolutely.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good. Kyler Yamamoto, shout out Spokane native. But yeah, the Oilers look very good. So let's move on, gentlemen. We'll get a live report from next Sunday's Ranger game from myself. Maybe we'll see if we can get Scotty on for a guest appearance. Who knows? But let's
there
move
we go.
on to some bad news, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. They lost 13-10 to the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. I'm gonna run down the box score here real quick. Geno Smith, 12 of 22, 167, 1 touchdown. Alex Collins, 16 carries, 35 yards. DK, 2 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Tackles, Bobby, 7. Puna, 6. 1 for loss. Carlos Dunlap, half a sack. New Orleans, Jameis, 19-35, 222, 1 touchdown. Alvin Kamara, 20 carries, 51 yards. And then receiving, Alvin Kamara, 10 catches, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. Demario Davis, 10 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 for tackles for loss. Malcolm Jenkins, a sack and a tackle for loss. I am going to start. Yesterday, I had quite a few thoughts. I'm going to keep these separate. Let's talk game, and then let's talk state of the season as of right now. So let's talk about the game first. I'm going to start with special teams. Jason Myers, I don't know what happened this year. Last year, he was 24 of 24 with field goals, 49-53. This year, he's 6 of 10 for field goals, and he's 18-19 on PATs. Now, granted, this is not all his fault. Absolutely not. But you got to make him, dude. You got to make him. Now, it's tough conditions, absolutely, but you got to make field goals. Like, I don't like kicking field goals, absolutely, but when your opportunities are presented, you have to make them, and you've been reliable. So it's kind of unfortunate that he's missing kicks. He's absolutely not the reason why they're losing. Offensively, God, it's just so frustrating. Not only are they bad, well, let me frame it this way: they're not bad, they're not good, but they're just boring and predictable and conservative. Also, it's just Geno can't take sacks. DK and Tyler need to touch the ball more. Use your tight ends. They didn't turn the ball over, which is fine, but it felt like they were playing not to lose the game instead of playing to win the game. It's so conservative every time. Like every first down, it was a run. There was no variation. There was nothing different. They just ran it right into the teeth of the Saints defense. And it's like, it was so easy to predict. Like Sean Payton probably was like, all right, here comes a run. I'm just going to stop the middle and they'll get 2 yards. They had that big play to DK in the first quarter. And, you kind of thought maybe they might mix it up a little bit, do some more deep shots, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But after that, it was just basically boring football. They just weren't impressive. They didn't do anything exciting. It was bland. If it weren't the Seahawks playing, I would have turned this game off in the third quarter. That's how sad it was on offense for the Seahawks. Defensively, the defense is not at fault in this game. They didn't play great necessarily. They didn't play bad, absolutely. I think the defense did exactly what they needed to do. I said they need to stop Alvin Kamara. They contained him. Jameis gave the dump offs to him, and that was open pretty much the entire first half. The Seahawks kind of closed it down there in the second half a little bit, but they contained Alvin Kamara enough to win this game. Jameis was Jameis. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. Overall, both offenses were kind of bland. And when your defense holds a team to 13 points, you should win this game. You should win this game. Al Woods can't jump off sides. That was unbelievable to watch. Stop hitting people unnecessarily, Marquise Blair. That was, I don't know what that was.
Everyone thought that was a bad call. It's like, dude,
it's not a bad call. It's clearly helmet to helmet. You can't do that. You just can't do that.
That's a flag every single time.
He's down. Like Bobby has him in his clutches. Like just let him go down.
He hit him in the head. Like nothing else. He hit him in the head. Like you can't do that in any way.
There were penalties here and there, and I watched the Manning broadcast, which by the way is absolutely the better of the two broadcasts throughout this Monday Night Football season. Like Manning's actually, I feel like they talk more to people who understand football rather than the other broadcasts who just kind of walks you through the game like you don't know what's going on. But Peyton said on the broadcast that they need to play more defense like with the LOB and put Jamal Adams in the box more like what Cam was, because Cam wasn't a deep safety. He wasn't the guy who dropped back a lot. He was mostly the guy who played at the line of scrimmage and was there going to be a physical presence at that safety position and then drop back when he absolutely had to. So, they need to use Jamal better. They need to be more physical. They need to jam the receivers and stop giving up these like soft zones and giving up these like 8-yard gashes all the time. It's hard to watch. So overall, the play calling was the biggest issue. And, you guys are going to poop on Pete. I'll let you do that all you want, because the coaching staff absolutely deserves a lot of blame in this game, because they could have won this game and they just didn't. Sean?
Okay, so I'll go in the order too. So special teams. Yes, Myers should make kicks. However, not all kicks are created equal. Kicking 55 yards in the rain and the wind is not a good kick to attempt. It was stupid to attempt the kick. He was never going to make it. Why attempt it? And I'll say this, like, Jason Myers in the past was good, but Jason Myers in the past was protected. He wasn't asked to do a lot of crazy kicks. He wasn't asked to do a lot of things. He was basically like, kick a bunch of 40-yarders, and everyone's like, yay, and extra points. And then he's like, hey, kick some hard field goals. And he starts missing them because guess what? That's what happens. And this was the same game in which Blair Walsh lost a game winner, kicking 55 yards in the rain in Atlanta, and only missed one kick, and everyone wanted his head. Jason Myers missed 2. And I'm just saying, like, people's perceptions of kickers changes based on what opportunity they're put in. Jason Myers has been protected more than Blair Walsh was. And we're now judging someone based off the different thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, kickers, you shouldn't be your focus of your defense. And I get it, kicking for field goals, you should make probably 2 of them. But 250-plus yarders in that weather, which he made 1 of, it's not good. It's not how you should base your offense. Like, and I agree with Matthew. Yeah, you should make it. But, like, with Matthew's point to the offense was what was the problem? Don't be such a stagnant, boring offense, and maybe you're not kicking 3 field goals, or at least that long of field goals. Asking him to kick those long field goals is not a recipe for success. So, especially in that condition, like, that it was never going to work. With the offense, I saw a great stat that someone posted. So the Saints stacked the box 11 times, and the Seahawks ran into it 9 times. So stack the box. They had 8 or more people in the box, and the Seahawks went, you know what? This is fine. And they gained 1 yard per rush on average on those plays. That's unacceptable, guys. I don't know if Geno can't audible. I don't know if they don't allow him to audible. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what it is, but why are you running into the Saints are like, look, you have DK and Tyler, 2 deep threats. We don't trust you at all to throw the ball 10 yards downfield, Geno. And the Seahawks said, you're right. And they didn't let him do it. They just kept running into that Saints team.
Well, the one time they did let him do it, he scored a touchdown.
Well, the one time he did run into it, the DB fell down. But yeah, that's fine. If DBs keep falling down, then we have a great offense. And that's what my other point is. Like, if DB didn't fall down, we gain 140 yards in this game. That's it. If a DB doesn't fall, like, we're relying on the other team making huge mistakes for our offense. Like, that's not sustainable. We're lucky we had 10 points. Like the offense was, I don't want to say all Geno's fault. It's what do you expect from a quarterback? But again, 2 weeks ago, people were saying like, man, look at this guy. I'm like, it was garbage time against the Rams. It did not matter. And then guess what Geno has done? 2 giant clunkers. That's Geno Smith, man. Like, he got ran out of New York for a reason. Both New Yorks. Like, he's probably a little better than this. The weather did affect Geno. I'm not saying like this is all Geno, but this is about as what it's going to be from Geno. Maybe a little better, compensate for some weather, obviously, because it's hard for any quarterback to throw in that type of weather. Same with Jameis Winston. Like, it was really coming down. It was raining and it was windy. It was not a great passing weather, but he's not going to be a slinger. He's not going to just torch this. Like, and we can't expect him to. So, but like, guys, it's like the offense was, even knowing that, it was still terrible. Like, it was just awful execution, play calling, all of it was just a mess. Defense, yeah, like, I'm glad you brought up Blair, Matthew, because I was going to bring that up, because that was 100% a penalty. People online were complaining. No, it was stupid. It was a penalty. The defense was fine, but again, everything I said that held back the Seahawks offense held back the Saints offense. They're not really. Sean Payton has really handcuffed Jameis Winston. They showed the stat, like, they went from the most passing offense to the least. Jameis isn't bad enough to be like he throws less than like some terrible team. Like, Zach Wilson out there has been terrible. Like, he throws less than those guys. Like, Jameis should probably be throwing it more than those guys. I wouldn't look too much into his stats in this game, because again, it was kind of a mess for the weather-wise. But they really handcuffed the Seahawks, knew what they were doing, and really played to that. The Seahawks finally, in at least part of it, were like, they're going to run. And the Seahawks played that smartly. They held Kamara to a very inefficient running game, which was fine. However, Kevin, I know is going to talk about this. Same with Derrick Henry game. They basically, every time someone dropped back, they gave everybody 10 yards and just let Alvin Kamara catch 9-yard passes when no one's around him. And I was incredible. I know Kevin was incredible. I didn't even have to talk to Kevin. I know Kevin was incredibly frustrated by that. And I was too. Like, he had 10 catches, and I think the average depth of catch was 3 yards, and he gained almost 12 yards, more than 12 yards a catch. So he gained like 8 yards after catching the ball where no one tackled him. Like, guys, like, and again, like they were talking on the broadcast, they don't have really any other weapons a ton, and you're not going to expect someone to throw it that deep in that weather. So Pete Carroll's leading a team that's so worried about getting deep in a blistering, rainy weather. If Geno Smith wants to throw that ball 60 yards in that kind of weather, I'm going to let him do it. And they weren't even accurate. Like, there's a couple that he had wide open guys, like especially early in the thing. Ben Baldwin took a screenshot. This dude's wide open, and he misses him by like 5 yards. And I'm like, I see that on the defense. I'm like, Geno's not going to be able to throw. And the weather got worse as it went on. I'm like, he's not going to be able to throw in this weather. And I say Jameis Winston, he's not going to be able to throw in this weather. So I wouldn't have played up. Matthew, and your point too. Why not jam the line? And for me, when a team like that isn't jamming at the line in that kind of weather, and really all year, that means you don't trust your safeties. Like, if you're worried about being beat so bad that in that weather you're playing off, you don't want to get beat deep. And that's because you don't trust the two guys back there to do that. That's how I view it. Like, why else aren't you playing up? So I know it's Pete's part of philosophy, but like, teams are understanding that you're going to give them 8 free yards on these passing plays. And it's incredibly frustrating to watch the defense play fine, but get handcuffed in, I don't know, Ken Norton, Pete's linebackers coach, DB coach, whoever out of the three of them is deciding this game plan. The Saints just kept doing it. They just kept doing it. And it was incredibly frustrating to watch. I'd say, I know the Seahawks gave up 5 sacks. Geno held the ball a long time. He didn't do them any favors. On those passing plays, he let them try to develop. There's a couple where they got beat pretty quick, but I'd say on a lot of them, he held it too long. And he just was trying to have some develop. And so I don't hold all 5 against them. There was probably a couple, they probably only deserved about 2. But so I'd say the O-line played pretty well. The Saints, we talk about, have some monsters on that defense. So that was expected. But it was frustrating. It was really frustrating all around. Matthew, you're right. This is a super boring game. And the Saints, we're lucky that we lost by 3. Let's just be clear. The Saints played better on offense and played better on defense. So, poop.
Kevin?
I really won't touch special teams because you guys kind of just already nailed it. So no need to beat a dead horse there. So I'm just going to try to cover stuff that wasn't really touched on. Offensively, there was some play, like I was a little bit frustrated with the Tyler Lockett missed because there was a play where he was draped by a corner a little bit, but he should have had it. It was actually a pretty nice thrown ball by Geno that was like right in his arms and it just like slipped through. I was just like, Tyler, you got to catch that, boy.
It is a crazy catch though. Like,
yeah,
I agree though. He got it both hands, but that is like, dudes are in his face. He's getting tackled. Like, it's hard.
But I mean, he's made crazier catches. That's the thing.
But to expect it it's hard.
Yeah.
Like,
with him being the high talent level receiver that he is, I kind of say I actually do expect him to do it.
But I'm saying like sometimes, but every time,
like hard. If he's 9 out of 10, I'm okay with it.
It was raining too. Like it wasn't like his prime conditions indoors. It was raining. Like,
to kind of go on Matt's thing, this offense is very predictable. Worse, and it's not Shane Waldron, boys and girls. Like, let's be honest. Some of it is like you can actually kind of tell now what's Shane Waldron and what's Pete Carroll. Like the nice little kind of fake that they had Gerald Everett go out to the right with a little bit of a kind of a jet sweep that they got like 9-10 yards. That's Shane Waldron. Like, because they had a fake handoff to like Collins doing it just immediate dash left and then Everett come around and I was like, okay, that's Rams looking stuff right there. Like that's Shane. Then like the power run plays, that's Pete. Like it was clearly night and day. Like when the majority of the offense that was being run was Pete. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah. There was a time, and they even mentioned this on the broadcast, where they literally ran 7, it was on different series though, 7 run plays in a row, totaling 20 yards against defense that has allowed only 200-yard rushing games in the last 3 years, I think it was, they were saying. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to do it. You can do it, but like you're on your third string. The fact that they trust their third string back more than their top 2 receivers, plus Gerald Everett. Like, I'm not saying let's go deep ball like Russ. Like, Geno is trash. Let's get it out there. Geno's trash. But like, he can make an 8-yard pass. Like, he can do it. It's feasible. Like, I just don't understand. Like, when you get so predictable, and as we kind of mentioned in this, Pete Carroll thinks that the run game sets up the pass, and that's why he's a terrible coach. It's the passing game that sets up the run. Me and Sean were kind of talking about it. We were missed because I was waiting in surgery, but like it's otherwise they just stack up the box. Like they're just going to do that. They're just going to say, hey, Geno sucks, so we're going to stack the box, and either you can throw it and we'll let Geno beat us. If Geno beats us, clap to you. But yeah, they're just why not? Why wouldn't you not put 9 in the box? Like there's no point not to.
Can I,
and then,
Kevin, real quick, when they
Yeah.
put 9 in the box, can I never see Demario Davis tackle Alex Collins at the line of scrimmage ever again? That happened like 9 times in that game. Like, you kept running it straight at the guy. The guy showed you he's going to make that tackle. It was impressive. Like Kevin's point, like they just kept running it back at Davis, and Davis like, I'm going to keep tackling Alex Collins here.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you tried the Rashad Penny deal. You're like, oh, Rashad Penny back. Let's give him a couple series, and then nothing happened. So it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. You need to use Shane Waldron to help Geno out. Don't do this power run bullshit that's so predictable. Like, I get a lot of I think in a lot of it too, the plans for Shane was with D. Eskridge in there because of his ability of how he's so fast on the jet sweep because he's a tiny little guy. But you still have other options that can kind of do that. It's not to the degree of what his speed is, but like he can get creative. It's just Pete is so conservative about conserving the ball, and look what it got you. Now let's look at another example where, like in the Sunday night game, you had the Colts who fumbled the ball 4 effing times and still beat the team, and we'll get into that later, but still beat their team by 12 points. Like, I get, yes, you don't want to do turnovers. Turnovers are bad, but they're not the end all be all. Like, if you're only getting an average of like 7 yards in a drive, and then you have to you do like a 3 and out on most of your drives, like it's not working. You need to take risks, like especially when Geno and the other gang are not, or excuse me, I keep saying Geno, Jameis Winston and the other gang are not really showing much on their offense either. So it's like, let's get the ball down the field and score. I mean, you're going to have to take some risks. Like Geno can throw a ball, like, will it be accurate every time? No, but like, you still have to, you cannot just take out the throwing just because it's a backup, period. We're just going to keep losing like this. It's going to be so predictable, but Pete is so like, it's like Pete feels like he loses part of his soul if the ball gets turned over on offense. Like, I don't get it. Like it's okay. Like he's a backup. He's going to make mistakes. Let's not wait for him to do it on the last drive of the play, like with 30 seconds left in the fourth. And then you're like, oh, like, give him time to get back in it. Like, you only let him go when it's like the final, and that's what it was doing in the Rams and Pittsburgh, and technically in this game too, where you're like, all right, we got to let Geno throw it now, I guess, because we got to get down the field. And it's like, no, that's what you should be doing the whole game. Like, let Geno try to get you down to the field to where he can at least get you a field goal. Like, yes, you're not going to get touchdowns all constantly because you don't have Russell Wilson, but like, your goal is to at least to get into field goal range every time with Geno. That way you can get Jason Myers to get more reps at kicking to where he can make better shots. Like, But he's so conservative. He's just like, oh God, don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. And it's like, stop it. Like he's a backup quarterback. He sucks. He's going to turn the ball over. It's okay. Like that. The only chance you have of winning against these teams is doing these risks and getting yourself at least 3 points a drive. Like you have to, because you're not going to get touchdowns. Really, you're going to only get 1 or 2 a game from him, and you need to get field goals. Like that's just the way it is, because your defense isn't a scoring defense anymore. It's not the LOB. Like they're not going to get you a touchdown probably a game. So you need to figure out a way to not run the ball 7 times in a freaking row. Oh God, it's like an anti-boner. when I say that, like, it's just horrible. Like it's stupid football. Like it's like, how are you still a coach in this league? And we'll get into that in a little bit. All right, defense. All in all, not bad. Sucks that Blair's probably going to be out now for the rest of because to go on Matt's point to putting Jamal up more, you could do that if you have a safety back there like Blair that can do coverage and stuff like that. But now with him out, it's kind of like the question mark of what do you do? I mean, do you trust Neil enough? I think you probably could, but at the same time, too, as me and Sean have mentioned, every time that Jamal Adams is at the line, the quarterback has an opposing QBR. What is it? 130 plus?
141.
141. Yeah,
that was last year. I haven't done it this year.
Yeah,
I can't speak
but
this year.
I mean, it isn't that great this year, to be honest. Like, Sean has Jamal. How many sacks does Jamal have on the year? Like, but even
0.
then, like, it doesn't, like, our defense still sucks. Like, even if he gets 10 sacks, like, our defense still sucks poo-poo. So if our defense is ranked 24th and you got 10 sacks, who gives a crap? Like, our defense still sucks. So, like, it needs to be a fix as a whole, kind of all around. The fact that it took them so long, to Sean's point, well, like, and we're going to get to this, of Kamara just doing these dump offs like Derrick Henry. And then finally, after 100 yards, took him 100 yards and a touchdown to be like, oh yeah, we should probably double that guy. And then they started doubling him, and then it was either Jameis Winston running out or nothing happened. Like, I was like, this is what you should have done the whole time. And then they just got a lucky strike to that one receiver. I don't even know his name, but like, if that happens, good, props to them. But like, Alvin Kamara is just tearing your butthole apart, and you're just like, I'll let it happen. It's like, he's your one weapon. Just take it, just double him, and you're good. And like, it took him literally a quarter in 100 yards for them to realize that. It's like, how do you adapt so poorly? Like, is Pete Carroll on the sideline, like, playing video games? Is he too busy? Like, he has like 4 different packs of gum in front of him. He's like, God, which one do I want to choose next? I'm like, I don't know which one I want to chew. I don't know. What's been going on? Oh, Alvin Kamara got 100 yards. Oh crap. Yeah, we should probably double that guy. Sorry, I didn't know if I want to do double bubble or green men over here. Like, pay attention, old man. Like, I know you're getting old.
He's a bazooka Joe guy. He's old school.
Like, yeah, that's possible. Yeah,
likes the comics.
But like, yeah, pay attention. Like,
now I want some bazooka Joe. Okay, sorry.
Like, what, and same with Ken Norton too. Like, this is a little bit on him too. Like, what are you two doing? Like, one of you, like, I don't know if it's just like, I don't know what is on the sideline. Like, if like Ken Norton's like, hey, old man, like, double that guy, and he's just like, mint flavor, bubblegum flavor, ooh, cinnamon. Ooh. And then he's like, old man, get to it. Like, I don't know. It's just frustrating. Like, he is terrible. He's just not good. And I'm glad that the 12 verse is starting to see it. It's like, it takes Russell Wilson being out to the freaking realize that, and there's still people out there that think Pete's good still. And I don't know what universe they're living in of unreality, but yeah, it's bad. Hopefully, the only thing that good comes out of this, because like, one, we're not going to get a top 10 pick. It's going to go to the Jets. Jets are just salivating. They're like, we're going to get a top 10 pick and still suck. It's going to be great. Is that the possibility that Pete might be so ashamed that he just steps down, or like ownership actually is like, oh, we're ownership. Yeah, we probably should fire that piece of crap. Like, hopefully that gets decided this off season too. Like is Paul's sister taking over? Like, are we going to sell the team off to somebody? For the love of God, can we get some form of ownership to actually take ownership? Like, to where like it's not just the Pete Carroll show, like, because nobody wants that anymore. It's outdated, and 710 Seattle sucks. So, speaking of that, which too, it sounds like the front, like people in the locker room, are not happy with Pete Carroll on offense, and it sounds like it's not the Shane Waldron show, according to Jake Heaps. So sounds like people are a little frustrated. I'm gonna guess DK, Russell, and Tyler, and Gerald Everett pretty much not getting fed anything, and the fact that they're not trusting Geno to throw anything down, past 3 yards. So it sounds like there's a little controversy there, which is good, because hopefully that gets the ball rolling to where Pete's butt is out the door, and we hopefully get somebody in that actually just is like, hey, Russell, you're really good. I'll just let you run the show, and we'll try to build up this defense for you. Yeah. So,
right.
Do we want to transition to state of the team?
Yeah, you want to go ahead and go first? Try and keep it a little bit short.
Yeah,
if you can.
For this season, it's, I mean, I love that people that are like, okay, go Cam Newton. Like, he's going to have to learn this offense. Cam's not really good at learning offenses very quickly. Just stop it. Like, this is what you get when Russell's out. Like, we haven't prepared for it at all. Like, it's unfortunately, it happens to most teams when their quarterback goes out. Like, you're just going to suck. Like, you might win a game or two. Maybe we might be the Jags next week. Who knows? Like, but this is the path you paved. Like, you don't have a defense like the Legion of Boom that can hold this team up for a backup. Like, you drafted poorly.
This is the path most teams pay, though. If you lose your quarterback, they're in trouble. That's just the state of the NFL.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, now had this been like 2013, it'd probably be a little bit different, because you have an elite defense and you have a Marshawn Lynch, to where you could probably win these type of games. Are you going to win like an Arizona game like that's coming up in 2 weeks with that team? Probably not. But like the games like this and the Steelers game, you probably do win with a Marshawn Lynch and a very good defense and a Tavares Jackson making decent, 9-yard throws downfield. But unfortunately, your defense is a hot pile of trash. It's just, I think there's talent there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Bobby's obviously, and I think there's other good pieces around it, but it's just poorly coached, and talent evaluation is terrible. And they're mixing up way too much stuff and expecting too much out of a secondary that's just not well just put together and not well schemed. Offensively, you have to change it up, or else you're just enjoy 10 points a game, boys, maybe 14 max. Or if you get lucky with a weird turnover, you might get 17, but like, that's about your limit. So it's time for a change, in my opinion. I hope to God this doesn't get rid of Russ, but I wouldn't blame him one bit if Russ wants to get the hell out the door, especially if management doesn't do anything about Pete Carroll. So leave it at
that. Sean, you want to go?
Yeah, I was at work lunch today, and I was at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I saw some sports on the TV, and there were several prominent shows talking about Pete leaving, or them wanting Pete to go. Some were on board, some were not, but the conversation is starting to be had in the national media on ESPN, and Fox Sports 1, things like that. Mina Kimes did a really good job explaining it, saying that she understands what Pete did for this team and everything like that, but it's probably time for just him to move on, and that's okay. Like, that's what it is. I think it's a couple years late, but I think that's what it is. I think at one point we had to ask, what does Pete do for this team? And how, if because I've heard a lot. I'll break it down this way. So everyone wants to fire Ken Norton Jr. Everyone wanted to fire Chris Richard. Everyone wanted to fire these other guys, and it's not changing. So I don't know how much of it is Ken Norton Jr. I'm not against firing Ken Norton Jr., but things do need to change. Again, people in the national media, they did on Monday night, they kept reciting what we talked about. Hey, after they were rough early in the year, and then they have to they changed at the end of the year. The last 8 weeks are really good, and we talked about on this podcast. They played horrible quarterbacks. Those guys aren't going to save you when you have to play the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. Like, you're not going to get those games anymore. You won your division. You get a first place schedule now. You're going to have to play those games. Like, you're not getting a second or third place schedule anymore. So, although they're scheduled, unfortunately, the divisions they play this year is pretty easy, but still, it's like you still have to play those teams. You're still going to have to play the Packers here coming up. Like, that's not going to go well.
No.
Unless everybody still has COVID from the Packers. That might be a thing. But Arizona's going to get a pretty easy win. We'll talk about that later here. It gets worse as the hours go by. You're not getting those schedules. So this bounce back that was held up by terrible quarterback play isn't coming. So to get back, I don't know if Ken Norton is the problem. I'm not against firing him. Pete Carroll, again, the issue has persisted even with him there before. So that has to be addressed. On offense, he's running through coordinators like crazy. Kevin said Jake Heaps has talked about how a lot of people in that locker room are incredibly frustrated with that offense. This is not the first time it happened. It happened a couple of years ago. They were frustrated with the offense last year. DK came out and said, like, they knew our plays. Like, we were just going to run, throw it deep. Like, the issue is persistent. It's not Shane Waldron right now. People are trying to spin it on Twitter as like, Russell hired Shane Waldron. It's Russell's fault. Like, guys, like, there was one guy in charge of this, and he hired Shane Waldron after he hired these other people. I don't know if Shane Waldron is the answer at offensive coordinator, but I know Pete Carroll's not the offense to pick the offensive coordinator. He's not the answer to pick that guy. If he's not picking the defense, and he's not doing that and involved in there, and he's not involved in the offense, and he's drafting terribly because he's also involved there, and he's not doing any of these things well, what is he doing well? Like, I saw a guy on Twitter I follow, respect a lot. He was talking about how all these quarterbacks, all these coaches need great quarterbacks to do well. And I said, yes. And he's like, well, then why do we fire Pete Carroll? I go, you made the case that a lot like Bill Belichick is sustained by these guys. Like Mike McCarthy was a bad coach. He got fired. Like he was propped up by Aaron Rodgers. And I go, yes, but you're not making a case to keep Pete Carroll. You're making the case that coaches are expendable. Then at that point, you don't think you're making the point you don't think you're making. And I'll point to it. We've talked about it before. Since Mike McCarthy got fired, the Packers have actually done better every year and have gone further than the Seahawks every year since they fired Mike McCarthy, since they got younger and did things. Bill Belichick's a different story, but that's like that team's a whole mess. But I'm for the mind, and I think it's more of a problem than happening this year than last year. Is the real conversation between Russell and Pete will be full board at this offseason. There will be a camp. I saw a thing, Kevin, where you said Jake Heaps. A lot of people are saying that's Russell's camp talking through Jake Heaps. It might be, but if that's his camp, that's how he feels. And he's going to put your feet to the fire and eventually make a decision now, because I'm not sticking here for 4 more years if this continues. It's going to probably happen, and I don't want to see it happen. I hope for Pete Carroll and Russell's sake, I don't see it happen, because I love both those guys. They like Pete did help build this team to win a Super Bowl. He didn't do as much as I thought he should have pretty easily done with that team he built, but he still built the team. He still won the Super Bowl. Like, he still got Russell. Like, he could have just said no and drafted Andy Dalton like he wanted, but he didn't. He trusted John Steiner. He drafted Russell Wilson. So for everything we give him crap for, he did draft Russell Wilson. He did draft Bobby Wagner. So but those days are long gone. Those days are over a decade ago, or are a decade old now, I guess. Like, it's not that anymore. Bobby Wagner's not getting drafted right now. Like, that's just not happening anymore. Like, we're getting nothing from our team this year, the draft picks this year. We don't have any draft picks. We don't have any draft picks next year. So it's just like, something just needs to change, like, in the offseason. And I think it's finally coming to a head. I wish it wouldn't have taken Russell to get hurt, but people are seeing it, like Kevin said. It's finally happening. People are like, Pete Carroll said, Matthew, too, like, I'd been fired if Russell Wilson hadn't been drafted. And everyone's like, yeah, and I got crap for that. I said you would have been fired if Russell Wilson was not drafted. If you didn't listen to John Snyder, you would have been fired. And then he basically came out and said it. I'm like, yeah, you would have been fired. You both would have been fired 4 years ago, minimum, if you didn't draft Russell Wilson. So, like, he knows it. I think that comment is along the lines of he knows the writing's on the wall, hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm going to put a brief message in here too. Can I just say to Seahawks fans too, like, I know like the season sucks right now, but honestly, the Russell Wilson injury might have actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And I know, because I know a lot of people know that me and Sean are like Pete haters and stuff like that. But like, as I kind of put on my Twitter, like, we had him under contract until 2025. And now this actually might bring up the possibility of getting him out of here after the season. Like, had this not happened, like, this whole charade of Pete's just amazing would have, like, we would have probably just had another season like last year. We're like, oh, we might have possibly made the playoffs and then just been one and done. Like, that's not what you should strive for, as we've already kind of mentioned after the offseason. And I'm not going to get into that real badly, but like, I'd rather have this now to where, you know, we're talking about him getting out the door now versus like the end of 2023 or 2024, like 3 years from now, and wasting Russell Wilson. Like, Russell Wilson's like 36. Like, let's do it now while Russell Wilson is still in his low 30s, like, and he's going to turn 33 this year. Like, let's do it now while Russell Wilson is, you know, still good. I mean, I think he'll still be good up until like he could be like Tom Brady, where he's still doing good stuff in his 40s. But like, let's rebuild this team now to where like we can do things when Russell's like 35, 36 and push for Super Bowls, because this team does going to need some rework. Let's do it now.
Can I counter Shannon Sharp real quick, Matthew, before you go? His point to me at times was, well, you're talking about firing a guy who won 10 games, 11 games, and 12 games, and went to the playoffs all 3 of those years. And my counter would be, the year before they didn't make the playoffs, and those last 3 years they lost 2 of those first games. The other game they beat a 40-year-old assistant high school coach who came off the bench and led them within 1 score of beating you in the Eagles. McGowan, like he was off the street like a couple weeks before. They're like, oh, we got to play him now because Winston's playing, and you almost lost that game. But then you got embarrassed. You didn't get embarrassed, but you lost to the Packers the next week. So like, we didn't do anything that really mattered with those games. That's Kevin's point. Like, once you play the good team, it's not like we're doing anything once we get there. Like, we're getting there because there has to be a 15, or, you know, there has to be a team to make the playoffs. Like, they're not going to remove, they're not going to go with 5 teams. So like, that's how it kind of feels. And I'm like, I don't want to feel that way anymore with this team. And what I think we have resources and talent wise, we shouldn't be a team like, we'll be fine, we'll be one and done. Like, no, you should be more than that. You shouldn't be losing to 4-finger, you know, Jared Goff. Like, you shouldn't be barely be beating Matthew Stafford to play for the Lions, or losing to Matt Ryan. Like, that's not losing to Cam Newton. You lost to Cam Newton. Like, that shouldn't be happening with Russell Wilson. So like, I just want like that to be addressed. That's all. Sorry. I like Shannon Sharp was just like, oh, they went to the playoffs. I'm like, it's not about going to the playoffs anymore. Your expectations change when you have Russell Wilson and when you have a lot of sustained talent on this team. Your expectations have to change.
All right, I'll start with the fan side of things. Sean and I have received messages from relatives. Let's just say, Sean and I and Kevin, we're all fans of this team. We want to see this team do well.
Yes.
We will always root for this team every game, win or lose. We want them to win the Super Bowl we want them to win every game. But let's take out the fan hat. Let's go to reality here. That's not the reality. You're not going to win every game. You know, you're going to root for your team every time, of course. You guys, you know, have made your stance on Pete Carroll pretty clear. I'm not pro Pete Carroll. I'm also not anti Pete Carroll, but you guys can see on the show document down at the bottom there on that Twitter link I have. In March, there was the person named Chris Clough. I don't really know who he is, but he wrote a column about Wilson's guys drive the anti-Carroll crusade, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and he said, you know, I basically was like, I don't like how much power Pete has. He should focus on the field. And he said plenty of coaches had that power. Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls running the Patriots like that. Carroll won 1. They want to control their roster. Carroll's problem has been the OC. He went a new direction this time. So we'll see if he gets better playoff results. That has aged very poorly. Like, I am not anti Pete Carroll, but at this point, when you look at this team, when you look at the results, they're minus 12 points. So it's not like terrible, but at the same time, these are games they normally have won in the past decade. And I think at this point, it's got to be pointed at leadership, because you can't look at these games that are very winnable and point to anything else, because, looking at the offense the last couple games, I mean, Gino's Gino. He hasn't been bad. He hasn't turned the ball over like you don't want him to turn the ball over. They haven't really turned the ball over at all this year, but they're not winning games. Defense is bad. And it's if it's, if there's an offense that's good enough to outscore teams like those first 6 games of last year, then you can cover up a lot of holes in that defense, but that's not happening this year. And ultimately, these faults fall on the head coach. So I personally think Sean is correct in this. I think Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are about to butt heads this offseason, and one of them's got to go. I think in my brain tells me both are going to leave. I think that is ultimately what happens. Unfortunately, I don't want Russ to leave. Pete, at this point, I think he needs to go. But ultimately, I kind of feel like Russ doesn't want to be here. Now, that might change if Pete's gone, but I kind of feel like he might want to try greener pastures and do something different. That could be totally off base, but based on, putting out trade teams out there, it just, you don't tell your wife, hey, if you ever broke up with me, this is who I would date. Like that's not good. That's
don't?
not. Oh, you do? So it just kind of seems like the writing might be on the wall for both of them. But ultimately, I hope they can kind of retain some players from this team. And if the season keeps going the way it is, it needs to be some sort of rebuild. But at this moment in time, the state of the Seahawks, I think you got to sell. I think you got to try and get some picks in this upcoming draft. You need to sell some guys.
Who do you sell?
Well, here's some guys who I would like to float out there for teams: Quandre Diggs, Carlos Dunlap, Jordan Brooks, Jamal Adams, Dwayne Brown, Rashad Penny, Alex Collins, Will Dissly. Any of those guys, whatever you want to get back, is fine with me.
Jordan Brooks is the only one that's going to get you anything, and that's maybe.
I mean, I'm just throwing names out there that I think you might be able to get something back for. Anything. It doesn't matter. Anything.
But the problem is, like, all your guys who have any sort of value have these monster contracts that no one's going to take Jamal Adams' contract. Like,
I understand that, but I'm just saying float it out there. I'm not saying anyone's going to take him, but test the market with these guys. That's what I'm saying. Test the market.
Like, they really might be.
Then when it kind of comes to the coaching situation, if the season goes the way it is, I really hope Pete is gone, because this is just a leadership thing. And as Sean said, coaches and quarterbacks, they kind of go hand in hand at this point. I mean, you could argue, like Sean said, Rodgers was saving McCarthy's job. You could say Matt Ryan was saving Dan Quinn's job. You could say that about a lot of quarterbacks, coaches, relationships, all that sort of thing. It can go either way. So ultimately, those two are tied for the most part, because the quarterback position influences the outcome of the game the most on the field.
But we've seen quarterbacks like Rodgers, Brady, they're fine without the coach. But
absolutely.
The
but
coach
also
isn't always fine without the quarterback. So
true,
one influences one way more than the other.
I mean, I would probably say 60-40, but sure.
It's probably closer to 90-10. But I'm not saying when I say I said the example, someone gave the example of coaches are interchangeable. I don't say they're interchangeable. Obviously, a good coach helps, but how much they helps is the thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So
helping is limited.
Anyway, I didn't want to throw out arguments without any sort of solution. So those are the players I would throw out for trade options, just because why not? What do you have to lose at this point? You're 2-5, doesn't matter. In terms of coaching options, I'm just kind of looking ahead. Guys, I think that the Seahawks would like. I've seen Kellen Moore floated out there. I really like that name. I hope that would be an option. Prosser native, runs a good offense in Dallas. I think that'd be a great option. Eric Bieniemy, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator, he was floated out last year as a head coaching possibility. His offenses look great right now, but I don't know how much of that is his fault and how much of that is kind of banged up and stuff like that. So
there's a lot of luck variance there that's not going Kansas City right now.
Byron Leftwich, I think, is another name that should be on the right there. I think he has a good offensive mind.
Is he the OC in Tampa Bay?
He is.
Okay.
And then I also want to float a name out there that I haven't seen much of, and that is Brian Dabble. He is the Bills offensive coordinator. I think he does a good job out there in Buffalo, and I think he could probably bring the offense to a place where Russ or whoever is the quarterback and whoever is running the offense could do what analytics and a balance of old school like to have a good offense. So those are the guys I think would be good options. In terms of the coordinators, if the head coach comes in and wants to keep him, fine, but I'm not tied to either Ken Norton or Shane Waldron. Like, if they go, they go. If they stay, cool. But I think a head coaching change would be good, and those are the names that I would float out there as good options.
I like Kellen Moore, the first one you brought up too. I wouldn't be against any of the ones you brought up, but I just want it needs to be a change of scenery. I think we all agree there needs to be a change of scenery.
Yeah. So
I'm going to kind of counteract his, even though I would take Kellen Moore, I'd actually probably more go up a name like Todd Bowles or like a defensive mind that's willing to just release the offense to his offensive coordinator and Russell. Like,
I just love the offense Kellen Moore runs in Dallas. It is analytically driven. It is great. And you can guarantee me, like, I don't know what Shane Waldron offense is, Kevin. And if you could tell me I get that offense, I'll take that offense. Like, I'll take what he does in Dallas. Because I don't know what Shane Waldron does. Maybe Shane Waldron isn't a good OC. That's the problem we're saying. We don't know because Pete Carroll's there. We don't know what offense he runs. So
it's just this defense is what the problem kind of is right now.
But the problem I think with defense is
but it's more than just the defense.
It is. But I think there's not a lot of talent there, unfortunately. And that's my other point, Matthew, is I don't know if there's a lot of guys of value on this team. Like, I don't think.
Well, as I think Kevin stated, there is talent on this team. Now, is anyone safe? Is anyone safe? I mean, I would say probably not. Like, if you want to keep Bobby, cool. If you want to keep Russ, cool. But everyone else, you could probably go.
But that's what I'm saying. Even Bobby, he's 31. Like,
oh no, Bobby's 32.
But Bobby is still playing great. Like
31.3. I don't know what that means, but
yeah, Bobby's 31, but Bobby has shown no decline. I mean, if you want to get rid of him, fine, but I don't really see it.
Like, people don't again, this is like modern sports. You're not trading for 32-year-old guys. Like, like that's when the cliff comes. Like, you don't trade for past performance, you trade for future. And if I'm a guy, I'm trading a hugely expensive linebacker who's 32, like
Dwayne Brown's 36 and he's fine. Like, I get your age point, but at the same time, has he dropped off? Has he dropped off?
Well, Dwayne Brown has this year, but like offensive tackles are way different than linebackers, Matthew. There's a reason you don't see 38-year-old linebackers running around out there anymore. Like, that doesn't happen.
I'm not saying keep him, but I'm saying he hasn't shown decline to where it's like absolutely have to get rid of him.
There are 2 40-plus-year-old starting left tackles in this league, but you don't see 38-year-old linebackers out there. I'm saying that, Matthew. Like, the guy who's got a lot of value is DK. Like, that's going to be the guy you could get a huge pick for. Unfortunately, that's the only guy that you're going to get a huge pick for.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm saying is, like, we might have that, but we don't have a lot of players to get. Like, Poona Ford might get some sneaky value, but unfortunately he's only going to get sneaky value. And I think he holds more value to the team he's currently on rather than what you could be able to trade for him.
Exactly.
He's worth more to you than trading him.
All right, well, let's move on to the NFC West here real quick. We're running low on time. So Arizona 31, Houston 5, LA Rams 28, Detroit 19, and Indianapolis 30, San Francisco 18. I'm just going to go really quick down the line. Arizona, not a surprise. LA Rams, looked scary for a moment, came back, took care of business.
It looks scary for like 10 minutes. Like,
I mean, they haven't beaten too many teams this year, so they did what they had to do.
They beat the Bucks.
That's it. Look at the schedule, Sean. That's it.
Look at the Cardinals' schedule. It's a freaking joke. And they're going to play the Packers with literally 0 receivers right now. What are we talking about? They'll have COVID. Like,
whatever. They both took care of business, and then Indianapolis won. Not surprised there, and San Francisco just doesn't look good. I mean, they don't really look very good.
That's going to be a question kind of going into this offseason that they were really talking about is like, what is Kyle Shanahan doing?
His all over ESPN today is Shanahan on the hot seat too.
Yeah.
Sean, did you unplug your mic? You sound a little different. No. Oh, okay.
You sound like you're on a speakerphone.
Yeah.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
think
can hear
maybe
you.
your phone disconnected from your mic. Oh. Okay. I don't know. Maybe you adjusted some. But anyway, let's talk quickly. Jaguars at Seahawks, 105 on Sunday. I want to be in town. I'm gonna avoid that area because it's gonna be perked, and I'm gonna stick near Climate Pledge Arena and hang out up there until the Kraken game. Jaguars are coming off the bye. They won their first game in 21 against the Dolphins in London before the bye. And the Seahawks, we know exactly what has gone on there. We've talked about it a lot this episode. Let's just go quick analysis and a prediction. Seahawks, I think, are a more talented team. That doesn't really mean a whole lot at this point. Jaguars are well rested, and Pete's pretty frustrating. I feel like the Seahawks should win this game, but I think the hole gets deeper, unfortunately. So I'm gonna go Jaguars. Jaguars 24, Seahawks 20. Sean?
Jaguars just lost their number one receiver for the year. Like I stated earlier, the two opposite corners opposite Griffin have been the worst two corners in football, all of football, back to back. So they don't have a lot of talent. I think the Seahawks get this done. It's more the Jags, I don't think, are ready yet to put it up there yet with the couple of injuries they've had, and just 1 year to try to put it together, I don't think is it. And I don't think they drafted particularly well either. But it's in Jacksonville. Oh, it's in Seattle.
No, it's
No, it's in Seattle.
That's right. 24-14 Seattle.
Kevin?
I think the Jaguars should win this pretty well, just because I don't trust Pete to see what Sean just mentioned, that the corners are terrible and that they should throw the ball. Like Pete just
their tackles are
Pete just
too.
doesn't pay attention to a whole lot of anything. It seems
Kevin, like they have two of the 13 worst tackles in football too.
My serious questions, like at the end of the day, that I want to sit down and ask other people is just like, what is Pete Carroll looking at? It's like, is he looking at film? Like,
well, what do you think's going to happen in this game, Kevin? We already talked about Pete Carroll.
I know. I still think this off, but I think it will be tough because you have a rookie quarterback at Lumen Field. Like, that place is gonna be loud. It's gonna, so I think that most rookie quarterbacks do struggle with Lumen Field being packed. But I still think we just suck a whole lot of donkey
balls. Can I say, is it? Because there are tickets going for $40 now for Seahawks.
That's actually kind of nice.
It might not be packed. I'm just going to throw that out there. Seahawks quickly jumped off that wagon.
Well, even when we have such, Seahawks fans are usually pretty loyal and pack Lumen Field.
Plus, $40 ticket. That's not a bad ticket. I mean,
there are $40 tickets now. It might drop. Like, it's not going up right now. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if people are just giving these away, they're not going to go. So I'm just saying, like, I'm hoping it's packed. Go, Matthew. Go to the game.
I'm going to say 21-13 Jaguars.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So let's run down the rest of the NFC West really quickly. Green Bay to Arizona Thursday, San Francisco, Chicago on Sunday, and LA Rams at Houston. The Thursday game would have been interesting had there been no COVID outbreak.
Interesting note. With Adams out, Devontae Adams out.
It's not just Adams. Lazard is out too, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. But in all games that Adams has been out, they have been undefeated.
There's a limit though. They just don't have receivers anymore. They're like,
now,
I don't know.
Does that mean they should win? Hell no. That's just a weird random coincidence. But
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is still playing well, but it's just like at a certain point you run out of weapons.
All right. Well, I think the Packers need to pull what Marshawn Lynch said he did before games and take a shot and a half of Hennessy and hope. And I'm going to take the Cardinals because they are rolling, and Yeah, I don't see that stopping at this point.
Packers ain't Houston though. Like,
That's true.
I don't think it's gonna matter. Sean,
It definitely matters. They're not.
then who do
Houston.
you pick?
I pick Arizona because they have no
Okay.
receivers. If they had the receivers, I would pick Green Bay, but they don't. So losing Devontae Adams is a very big deal, and then losing Lazard is a very big deal. But they don't, and so missing those two guys. I mean, Alex Cobb's your number one. That's the problem. So yeah.
You mean Randall Cobb? How dare you?
Oh, sorry.
The pitcher.
The 40-year-old dude running around.
Also, a big note too. Chandler Jones is coming back from COVID list, so that's a huge problem for them. Yeah, I'll say it'll probably be still close. I think it will be within 10 points. I think it'll be kind of like, I don't know if it'll be like the Vikings game, but I think it would be a high scoring, probably like 32-26 like type of deal. I could see that, but I'm taking the Cardinals.
Cardinals are 3.5 points favorite. You taking that, Kevin? I'm taking Cardinals are going to cover. Absolutely.
Yeah, they'll cover.
Like right now, like the Green Bay's efficiency is higher than Arizona's. The problem comes on the other side where Green Bay's defense is not very efficient.
Yeah.
They're bad.
San Francisco at Chicago. I am actually going to take the 49ers to bounce back in this one. I really don't have much faith in Justin Fields and that team and that coach, and they're just a pile of poop. So I think San Francisco will win this game. Sean?
They are a pile of poop. Allen Robinson, you should probably throw that guy the freaking football. Mooney, you should throw that guy the freaking football. Nope, you're not going to do either of them. Okay, 49ers. With that said, the 49ers do not throw it to Ayuk. So it's the battle of which teams does not want to throw it to their good receivers. So I think the 49ers will throw it to their one other good receiver, and that's Debo. And so they win because they're the only ones going to throw it to a good guy. So there you go.
Is this game in San Fran?
It's in Chicago.
It's in Chicago. Okay. So I mean
10 a.m.
So I was about to say they are 1-10 in their last games in San Fran. Just interesting.
Chicago?
No, I'm saying 49ers, they're playing like shit at home. Like they're just fucking awful at home. I don't know what the fucking deal is.
They lost the field goal game to Green Bay, but
yeah. This is interesting. God, because that team is really poorly coached right now and just in shambles.
Just throw it to Allen Robinson. Seriously. Like,
I'm gonna go Chicago. I'm gonna say Chicago just because
I don't think it's crazy. Like,
yeah,
like I don't think you're saying.
I'll say this: if Chicago wins, then Kyle Shanahan doesn't need to be on the hot seat because 49ers should win this. I think they have way more talent, even though they have a lot of it hurt. But if they do, then Kyle Shanahan's name really needs to be on the hot seat right then and there, because that's bad.
I think Kevin nailed it. They have more talent, but if they lose, like conversations need to be had.
Yeah.
And then Rams at Houston. I think we all know what the
Houston's gonna murder that ass. No, I'm kidding. It's gonna be a slaughter.
I would like to see the Rams play a good team at some point soon, though. It's coming, right? Let's see.
Is it?
I don't know. I imagine it would be at some point.
To be fair, let me.
They beat the Colts. They beat the Bucks.
Let me
under 500, under 500 or 500.
Give me a moment here.
Aren't the Colts
their defense?
No,
the Rams' defense is not as good as it was last year. That's been their problem, is their defense.
Oh, okay. They got a decent stretch coming up. They got home versus the Titans, at San Francisco, and then at Green Bay. So we'll see what they really are in that 3-game stretch. But yeah, LA Rams, everybody's taking the Rams. Let us know what you think of the Seahawks, what you think of the NFC West. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean's at Sean Scorbady. Kev is at Kev's Bleed the First and Billy's Bleed the 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Follow the Seattle Kraken. Turn on the game on NHL Network if you have it, or Root Sports if you don't have it. If you don't have either of those, then I don't think you're watching this game. So that's unfortunate. But support the Kraken, support the Sounders, support the Seahawks. We will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.
Fire Pete Carroll.